All right, so this is how your desktop should look when you log in. This is the new public portal website, the USVI public portal. Don't worry with the UAT here, so I'll swap for a minute. And it says USVI public portal.vicourts.org. That is the site. It's no longer the e-file site that you were using, and it's no longer that USVI public access site that you also use to help with like looking on the public side of it. It is now one merged site. So public portal is merged with e-filing so that you have that capability in one portal. That is what kind of caused the challenge in the beginning. A lot of the things that we had available, like your cases and your your documents that we had available in the e-file versus public portal, public access, we had to scrutinize that a bit more when this upgrade occurred, because we couldn't allow a specific case type to be out there for the public when it is also e-fileable. So it was a two-part triage that we had to do, but it included us making a review of all our case types and then all of our dockets that allow you to actually use the system as intended. So again, we apologize for those hiccups that we had in the beginning, but it was necessary. It wasn't something that we could have bypassed. So this is how your home page should look. This is my production portal. So right now you should see the announcements on the page. If you are a legal org person, you should see your managed organization, and your tabs would look a little differently. I am not going to go through the like registration process more or less, because I think we've bypassed, like, a lot of the users are no longer having that issue as far as like registering, doing your forget password. You're not really, we don't have many of those issues happening right now. So I want to kind of just jump in to address some of the things that we may have been placing on the announcement screen throughout from November 8th, which is our upgrade date, to present. So those things, which is I got an email saying this is not working or this needs to be updated, that's the things that I want to address. If you are still a user with registration issues, please send that to the eFile help desk, so you could email it to me, and of course I'll work with IT to try to get you the help that you need. But for the most part, I am not going through the registration. If at the end someone wants me to just fly through it, I could, but I'm gonna just jump into everything else. So I am gonna switch to, oops, it's up here. I'm gonna switch to my production, my testing environment. So here we are, just so everyone is very familiar with when you call us or when you send us an email and we ask you for screenshots of your login, this is what I need. This is what we need. We need to see how you're logged in. So my name is at the upper right corner. It's my name. I'm an administrator in our portal, so it would still give me rights to do specific things. But if I am just a support staff or a public user, my name will appear if I have registered, and I'm a registered user. I could see my name in the upper right corner. Um, when we ask you for a profile or ask you to go into your profile, what we mean is to go down, click on your name, click on profile, and then you're going to see all of your information that you could adjust or not adjust within your profile. So my user profile, I could go in, I could see what my name is, all of the information related to my user profile. In at least 90%, at least for the audience on this call, you are using it for your job. So you are using public portal for the purpose of working in a firm, working at the AG's office, working a public defender, or some means of, filing stuff with the court for e-filing. I am going to log out just to show you the public view of this. So as a public user, I go on to USVI public portal. I only see these limited options. I'm not logged in. I don't need to log in. I really just want to search for a case, and I go in and I do a case search. All of this information is not required. So if I wanted to, just, I don't know the case number, or I know it contains a specific name, I could do a search, and then I go in as a public user. I'm just looking at everything in the court for whatever reason. Um, so as a public user, I have limited rights. I can't see specific things. And even when I get into let's say a small claims case, I may not be able to see specific things in the small claims case. And we had to do that for that, like I said, the triage before of trying to make sure that certain things are not out in the public that may contain like your personal information. So as a public user, I can still see the cases, see what's in here, whatever I need. I if I'm on the case, but I have not registered, or I have some interest in a case, I could request case access to this specific case. I could say, well, I'm the so an example I had the other day was a paralegal for one of the banks. So of course, we know in small claims there's no attorneys, but their legal office, their legal counsel's office manages all of their cases that they file with the court. So in the old system, he was able to go in, see what he needed to see, and there was no issue because it was not merged. But now he had to go in and request case access to those specific cases, just so that in the event he went into this case and one of these pleadings was in red, well, it's not in red anymore, but if he went into one of these pleadings and it looked like the document itself was not there, like this would show up blank, he won't be able to see it, but he's eligible to get the case access. So he would make a request to see the case, and then on the clerk's end, this is how it looks. We would see, this is all test information. We would see the request come in, and then we would have an idea. Some people have been putting like a comment in here. I am the paralegal for Banco Popular. So we would kind of vet it, go through the case, and see if you are eligible for the access. If you are, then you would be granted the access. That's kind of a more like advanced use of the public portal. But if the person does not need advanced use, then they're literally just going through searching for the cases, searching for a calendar. They could look at, hey, let me see what the court has on today, and then they could, search it and actually see what we have calendared. So because this audience is users where you're actually electronically filing, I am going to go in and I'm going to log in as me. I'm the person in the firm that's wanting to log in to do my e-filings on behalf of whomever. I just wanted to also point out that the authentication that is driving some of you mad, that is only really, I would say, a one-time thing if you leave your windows open. You don't have to log out of the website every time you're finished with it, or you get distracted, you go on lunch, you go on break. You don't have to log out. I don't know what your internal like rules are, but for the most part, if I do an authentication, I could leave. This would be authenticated until such time that this window actually closes. So I am going to authenticate. So that's just a tip for those of you who have asked the question if you have to authenticate each time. And you really don't have to unless you're logged out. Most times I could tell you guys I work on weekends as well. So I would go home with my laptop on a Friday, and Saturday I don't have to log back in. It's actually, I go in, I log, it's right here. My window is open and I am logged in with my user information. So that's a tip there. I wanted to point out, and I probably didn't say this in the beginning, but we do have the recordings on our judicial branch YouTube channel. So if you were to go to Judicial Branch YouTube, we do upload the videos. So anything like this, which is a presentation, you missed it, we're recording. So IT usually uploads it after. So if you missed, let's say the December 30th one, and I urge people to go back to it just because something may have been brought up today that wasn't brought up on December 30th or vice versa. The recent issue that we had, and I believe we have told people before, if you do the registration and you do forget password, that should essentially be bringing your profile over. Like we would match it to your profile that you had before, so you don't lose like your history and all of that stuff. But we want to urge you, because we just had this recently occurred, and of course it caused a little stir. The ARS requirements are still, like, you still have to do that. You are still required annually to do your annual registration with the bar admissions office. You must follow the rules, follow whatever requirements you have with that office. So if you are a user and you have not been able to do the forget password and you're trying to change your information, it's not working, I would urge you to first make your updates with the bar admissions office. So anybody that's, let's say you changed the firm or you're changing something on your registration, or essentially what would have been on your registration, don't just do it in public portal. You have to do that with bar admissions first, and then you could make like whatever updates or use whatever information you're going to use. So like a new email address, you can't just use that without advising bar admissions, because they still have their requirements. You're still required to do a specific thing with their office. And no swapping, like you can't take your assigned email address and say, okay, now I'm going to give that email address to Tamara, who's my support staff, so that she could use that. And then I'm going to use my new email address. That every person in the system has to have their own login, like unique identifier. And then from there, you guys, I'll show you the tips on doing the forward notifications and the CC email address, adding your CC email address. So I know it's a little different from the issues that we had in e-file before, where you did depend on public access to kind of help you and access your filings, and the support staff had a challenge because you couldn't see your attorney's filings and all of that. But really, with this one portal, you don't have to do all of those extra steps that you did before. So please, if you're gonna make any updates, please try to make those first with bar admissions, and then you could come back into public portal and make whatever updates you need to make. All right, so we're gonna go into my profile, and I wanna point out some things here. In preferences, and I think a few of you may need to go back and check your preferences, the time zone that's on here needs to be a US time zone. The vendor hasn't given us like a default time zone that you need to be in, but one of the issues we found is that if you choose something that's not a US time zone, that messes with your payment portal, like the payment method. So when you go and you save your payment method, or you're trying to do a checkout at the end, that has been something that we notice is hampering you when you try to check out. So please go back in. Everybody could do that today. Go back in, check your preferences, make sure it is a time zone that is US related. Your addresses, everything on here needs to be current. If you have added a payment method, you would see that here. And if you are a user who should have been associated to an organization or a firm, then your information, something must be in this tab. So if you click on associated organization and I'm a support staff, then you know that, yeah, I'm not associated right now to anybody, and I need to be. Because I'll show you throughout this presentation that you can't be just solely Tamar Charles if I'm trying to file as an attorney, like I'm trying to work on behalf of an attorney. So your associated org must be filled in if you are a part of an org. And then your notification preferences, this is crucial. You need to make sure that your application and email checkboxes are all. So I suggest you do all. So select all just for now. And then if you go, as the months go by, if you feel like, I really don't need to see um I don't know, something on this list, which I think everything is crucial. If you don't want to see specific things, then you could go back in and deselect something and save at the end. But as you can see on my profile, everything is selected. Application means from the system. So if you're going to get a notification from, let's say, somebody serving you, opposing counsel is serving you, that is coming through the application. And then you should also be getting an email in your email that says you've been served with this document from whoever that was filing it. And then you could see that. All right, and then your user access. A lot of times when we try to help you with the e-file help desk, we ask, okay, can you go to your user access tab and tell us what access you have right here? So some of you may have org administrator and filer. Some may have attorney, filer, org administrator if you were added as an admin person for your org. So just these things are kind of just like a little double checking, because when we first started, some of the information we provided may have changed. So I would just ask that you go back in here and double check your information. All right. I'm gonna go to the adding of a support staff. So if I am a legal org, and I am in this situation, I am the I have org administrator access. I'm gonna go in. Everybody that has legal org as their role, you should have this tab that says manage organization. And what you're gonna do is click on that to allow you to see your legal organization, and then you could see your users that are related to this legal org. So this is crucial because this is like your office makeup. So everybody's name has to be listed here. Your support staff, your attorneys, everybody has to be listed here. If you go through your users listing, if you're a legal org admin and you go through your users listing and see that somebody isn't added, you need to add them first as a user. So I'm just gonna add like a test attorney that I created before. Gmail. So this is me using the exact email address that my attorney, Tom, said, hey, this is my email address. This is what I registered with. Please add me as a user into the org. So you have to use the specific, in a lot of instances, especially if you like migrated over, not really migrated because we didn't migrate, but if you were using the e-file website before, you're thinking, okay, well, this is my email. This is what I used before. We may have some instances where users are like in our system multiple times, like this morning and yesterday, I'm trying to help a user who is in there a few times, and we're trying to figure out what we need to do to get it correct. But you should be logging in with your current username, email address, and then you would add the attorney in as a user. So I'm just going to save, add user. I'm adding that person. This person was already given attorney access. So that's crucial. Your legal org admins, that is part of your, I would say, duties when you're managing the org. You need to make sure that the attorney has requested attorney access. And the way that you do that is when I go into my profile, I could click on user access and I could submit a request for attorney access. So that should have been the first thing the attorneys did when they logged in. If an attorney, like we had this the other day where an attorney was like having issues and they had to do kind of a whole new registration. That legal org had to go in, remove that attorney from the legal org who was already there, and then add them back in. So this is me as the attorney. I already had attorney access, and then I'm gonna add a support staff to the org because somebody came in new. So this is somebody that you're adding to the org. All right, I'm not going to give that person administrator access. It's just a support staff. So I'm just saving that person. As you can tell, the check marks distinguish, it's self-explanatory. It tells you who has what roles. So for the support staff that was just added, I have to ensure that that support staff is added as a support staff to the attorneys that they offer support to. So if I could file as support staff for this attorney, what I need to do is click on the attorney line. So the attorney is test attorney. So I'm going to click on test attorney and add support staff to this attorney. All of your staff should show up on your listing, and I want to choose, okay, this is a support staff that's going to offer support to that specific attorney. And once that's done, you're going to get the record was saved successfully. In addition, if you didn't see that pop up initially that says you could forward notification, I would suggest you go back in using these three buttons on your right side. Click on the support staff line and then edit that person. Did I? Okay, here. So I'm going to go back to the attorney line and I'm going to say edit staff for that attorney. And I want to give this person the notifications that's supposed to be coming for this specific attorney. Forward all notifications to the authorized support staff. So this is something we kind of didn't tell you in the beginning, but if you are using the CC email address, I wanted to point out that there's a distinction, like it's different than what we thought it was in the beginning. The vendor updated us prior to me making the presentation on the 30th. The CC email address is literally just that. So if I wanted to CC my personal email address and maybe my chief deputy, I could go in to my profile and I could do in my it's in my contact. I could say add CC email address, and that the language we updated it as well to let you know what it's about. Is you're adding just really a carbon copy as a contact. Like it's really not doing anything. It doesn't have any like action behind of it. What we urge you to do is go in to the attorney record and make sure that you're choosing forward notification. So this little checkbox, I think most of you had already done it when I brought it up, but make sure that this is enabled so that when you are, the attorney and you're waiting for something to come in, your notification would have already been forwarded to your support staff and they should be able to click on where it says you've received something that was filed, and then you click on that where it says click here to see the filing. The important thing about that, which I think most people are still getting confused on, is if you are a support staff, your name under profile, you would see something that says on behalf of. So you must be in that on behalf of role for you to access anything on behalf of Attorney Tess. Like I can't be in just Tamara Charles as a person because the system is identifying me, Tamara Charles, just as a public user. My name must show up as this person on behalf of. And yes, it's a little tedious for you to be swapping, especially if you have a larger firm or organization. It's hard for you to swap between each of the attorneys that you support, but you must do that for you to access what was intended for Attorney Tess. You can't be on behalf of attorney, John, when you are receiving a filing for Attorney Tess. You must swap. You must be able to access it in the proper role. So that is what we mean by, are you logged in properly? Who are you filing on behalf of? We have changed the emails, just so everybody knows. I know there was an issue about like the email language did not include um like the case number, case title, who it was from, all of that. So we have changed that. What's missing and what the vendor has advised may not be able to be added right now is the name of the filing. So I know you're accustomed to seeing, your case number, your case title, and then it would say response to motion X, Y, and Z. But the vendor, we're still kind of troubleshooting that with the vendor. And then we did add the attorney, at least so you could see who, like what role you should be in when you're trying to access the email from when you're trying to access the filing from your email. However, if you cannot accept the filing, and you're having issues, then what I urge you to do is go into your notifications tab. So if I am logged in on behalf of, I should have no issues seeing everything that relates to this specific attorney. So the tabs on the left, when you're on the system as on behalf of, you're on behalf of the attorney, and you should see the attorney's work, the attorney's filings, the attorney's cases, the attorney's hearings coming up, any e-service that was received from another party on a case. All of that is going to be, so the my work is not your work as Tamara Charles. It's your work as Tamara Charles on behalf of Attorney Tess. So this is Attorney Tess work. This is his filing, cases, hearings, e-service. So if I need to see Attorney X, Y, and Z, who's another attorney in my firm who I assist, I need to go here and do on behalf of. I don't have it only because I'm not listed here as a support staff, but if I was, then it would show up as the on behalf of, and I would be able to choose that attorney that I need to swap. Kind of, it is, like I said, a little inconvenient. I have brought it to the vendor's attention to see if they could do a workaround on that. Some people are still getting issues with accessing the filing from the email. And if you are, these are the things that you should check. You're on behalf of, am I in the right role? Am I logged in properly? Those are some of the things that we ask you to check when we're trying to help you. The case search, I wanted to point out that the case search automatically is the exclude closed cases is automatically checked. I've asked the vendor to uncheck it because I think it would make more sense for it to be unchecked and then you could make the filter, but it hasn't been done yet. We're working on trying to see if that could work. But automatically you have to uncheck this if you want to see everything. My suggestion is to make sure you uncheck it. I've had a few emails and everybody kind of misses that. So if I'm looking for something and then you may not know if the court status that we have internally, if that is carrying the case as a closed case type, even though in your mind it might not be closed, but you may want to uncheck it just so you could see a list of everything. The switch to advanced is usually a good tool as well if you don't know. Like I only know the case category, or I just know it has a case name of, a last name. So the advanced search is helpful. Like if you use this and then you're able to see something a little more than your basic search. So I am going to proceed with doing a filing just to show you guys how we've distinguished what you're supposed to do with like add document versus add docket entry. I know this was something that in the beginning we also did not kind of cover because we weren't too familiar. Just like you were learning, we were learning with the upgrade. So I'm just going to do a new filing just real quick. And I'm just gonna file into a existing case. So here in the lead docket entry, I wanted to point out, at least for the staff that is always on here, you're always going to be e-filing. If you start typing in what you're going to file, it helps. You don't have to go through that long listing. If it's a summons, if it's something that you're not sure what the category is, if it's motions, you could do motion. If you want to just say summary, because you don't know, then yeah. So things like this is something that you could, it's a little quick way to enter the information in here. So in doing your filing, this is crucial in the existing case types. Please just skip this step when it says parties. You're not adding a party. You really should just be skipping a step if you're in here doing a existing filing. If it's for a new case, then yes, please add your parties. Please add all of your plaintiffs and all of your defendants. We are having to go back through the workflow for some of those master cases and the complex cases. We should, I'll try to come up with something on that end, but for the most part, please add your parties if it's a new case. So I am just going through the workflow. I don't think many of you have an issue with this portion of it, like adding your documents. So right now, I could tell you we are working with the vendor. The documents automatically come over as a PDF. I know there's that requirement that your proposed orders need to be filed in Word. So if you are filing it in Word and let's say the attorney says, hey, I noticed you didn't, it is a system issue, and I am gonna go over that with Judge Watlington, the presiding judge, so that she knows it's a system issue and not necessarily a user. But still, please file it in Word, because in the event this is resolved, then we could get, all the Word documents like to be what it was when it was initially filed. So this also complicates a few people. People think that, okay, when you get here, you're finishing, but all it's telling you is that you're finishing this specific filing. So I'm done with the motion itself. I've uploaded it. We want to point out that these three buttons on the right, this is where you would add. So if it's a motion for summary judgment and you had an exhibit, you could add the exhibit here. You're going to choose this option, the three buttons, and then you're going to edit, and then you're going to do add document. And then I could put here exhibits, exhibits 1 through 5 if you wanted to group them or something. But this portion I know is a little ticklish, because you go to add your documents and then you have to go back to your docket entry. So think of it as a paper that you were bringing in years ago when you brought your motions and everything to the court, and it had to be filed, and then how it shows up on the docket. So I am going to go quickly into, well, I'll do this filing first. So where it says motion your exhibits, this is your group of documents that you're filing. But when I want to add my proposed order, I'm going to do add docket entry, because I don't want it to be grouped into the motion and exhibits. I know it is related to this filing, but I want to add it so that when the clerks accept it on the internal end, it's going to show up on a separate line, like it's going to show up as a separate docket entry. So here is where you would add your proposed order and spell. So this is where I'll add my proposed order. It should be in Word. We're having a conversion issue right now. But this, I'm done with this specific filing. This is how my entire filing for my motion for this specific case, this is what it looks like. So my motion with the exhibits are here. My proposed order is here. And then I could see a summary of what I am about to file. So I'm going to go in and continue. And like I said, if you're having a little issue with remembering what should be separate and what shouldn't, just think about how it will look on the docket. So essentially, you don't want to do add docket entry for your exhibits 1 through 15, because you could imagine how that's going to display on the docket. It's going to display as your motion, as the underlying document, then every line of exhibit 1 to 15 will take up a line, and then your proposed order. So just think of what what groups, but do know that your proposed order has to be added as a add docket entry. If you're doing a new case, you would do your complaint with the exhibit. So a complaint and your photos, that would be your exhibit. And then you're going to do a separate line entry for your litigant form and then a separate line entry for your summons. So those would be added as add docket entry. Um, the service tab, which a lot of this was not fixed in the beginning, and I want to urge you to make sure you're seeing the information. We are getting still some emails, which I said in the last announcement that we made, that after the presentations we are not going to accept the emails anymore. And it's not just to be difficult, it really is hard for us to try to manage all the emails, make sure they're docketed properly and on time, and then also manage the e-filings. But since most of the e-filing issues are resolved, we are not going to accept those emails. If it is like I had an issue the other day where it was a recording, which is supposed to be acceptable through public portal, and we pass that on as a trouble ticket to the vendor. But if it's something like that, then you just send us an email, put a little, verbiage in there. I've been trying to upload this recording, it's not going through. And then the clerks have been good at, getting the permission from me or one of the chief deputies to make sure that it could be accepted through the email. Or you might get an email either back from me or one of the clerks that says, please use public portal to file your filing, because the email would not be acceptable. In the service tab, which a lot of you missed this was not like fixed. So when you go into the service tab, you're not going to see your own name. I know that was something in e-file where some of you were adding yourself to get the service of the document that is already going to come to you from the court, but you don't need to do that here. So if I am filing on behalf of one of the plaintiffs, so in this case, this attorney does represent both, so her name appears here, but if it was just one plaintiff, one defendant, I would probably only see the defendant's attorney's name here in the service area. And then I'm going to choose which attorney I'm setting service for. We are working with the vendor to see if we could put public portal e-service as the first option versus the last. So the reverse order of how it is right now, but you would choose public portal e-service as what you're like using to serve this person. What helps you with identifying the public portal like eligibility is that it would tell you here that this attorney is e-service eligible, which means that they've registered, they are a public portal user, so you could serve them, and this attorney should be getting something in their notifications and email that says this attorney filed something in this specific case. So once you've done that, it will more or less give you the continue button. Before, it didn't have continue, it just asks you to set the service. If this is a pro se person that's listed as part of your list, and you have to serve that person as well, you would click on the person, set service, and then you could say conventional email, not serve. You could choose one of those options to make sure that you have some record of how you're intending to serve the pro se party. So this is what the service portal look like. And then once you continue, you're going to see a summary of what was chosen. So your filing, it allows you to kind of hyperlink back into the filings just so you could double check it to see what was actually uploaded. And then you could submit your filing. If this was a new filing that had fees associated to it, you would see something that says check out with end court, and then you submit your filing and do the payment portal process. So I am going to submit it just so that we could see what that looks like when you get your notifications and everything. So the filing is submitted. It should tell me that I have submitted something in e-filing, and then internally the clerks would see a filing for this attorney. So I am just gonna quickly go through what we would see on our end, just so you have an idea of when we tell you like we didn't see it, or you submitted it but it's not yet here. Just as a FYI as well, your submission doesn't mean that it automatically gets docket. We have to do some scrutiny. The clerks go through a process of making sure the document is for that case that you're trying to file on, and then they do the acceptance process. My testing CMS site was messing up recently, but all right. So this is the filing that is going to be assigned to the clerk. And I'm only doing this step. It's really not like for you. I'm only doing this stuff so you could have an idea of when I file something, it is not just automatically like timestamp. The clerk has to go through and imagine 1,000 filings per day, because the portal is Supreme and Superior, and then it's both districts. So my low queue that you just saw is really not even half of what we would get in a day. So this is a filing. The person is gonna accepted in. They usually review the pleading just to see, hey, let me see if this is correct. Let me see if it is the right case number. And then we accept it in. So once that is accepted, as you can see, my motion it's on a separate line. And then the clerks accept it, and then your exhibits are in the document portion of that filing. So this is what I mean by making sure that you're filing it and it's not taking up the entire docket. And then my proposed order, same thing. I'm going to say, and we usually relate it on all of that, but I'm going to skip those steps. So this is what it looks like internally. So now those filings came in. I have my motion and my proposed order. If this was you filing your motion and then your 5 exhibits, it would literally be on every line of this filing, and then your proposed order would show. So that's what we're trying to avoid, especially with your exhibits. So that's basically how it looks internally. The filing was submitted. I got a notification. This is my notification saying that my submission was received. And so I got 3 notifications. I got a filing submission, submission received, approved. So this is where I mean by, okay, well, is my notifications tab looking too clustered? Do I need to go back in and under my profile say, I don't want to see when it was received? So filing submission, filing receipt. So if I didn't want to see that, I could uncheck that and I could say, okay, save it so that it kind of doesn't clutter your notifications. But I just think it's good to have everything for now. So when it's approved, you'll see that as well. I could view it from this link. I should be able to go in. If I was on behalf of, I needed to be sure that I switched this because my filing was on behalf of Attorney Reinhardt when, I'm already in the role helping attorney X, Y, and Z. I need to switch it because it's going to give you an error if you're not in the correct role to access this attorney's filings. So we can't say that enough, only because when we try to troubleshoot with you, these are the things that we look for. One, are you in the on behalf of role correctly? And then if you're getting the notification, you should be able to see everything else. If I was the opposing attorney, I should be seeing something in my e-service receive tab, and then I should be able to access that. But separate from it being in your e-service receive tab, you should have gotten an email that your staff should also be able to access without having to do anything else. All right, so let me look over my notes real quick to make sure I'm not missing anything in that section. For those of you who do the master cases and the complex cases, I do know that the service area in those cases, the service area is a little misleading. Like some of your attorneys may not appear, and I'm trying to get some clarifications from the vendor on exactly what we need to do to get you to be able to add the attorneys if they're not there, or what one of the issues was I'm attorney XYZ, but I represent 5 of the plaintiffs. So I wouldn't see my name in the service area, but then I'm only seeing 2 attorneys when it really should be 6. So they have provided some workaround. I'm not comfortable with the workaround because it includes you adding the person like as a participant on a case, and I'm not sure we've tested that. And on the CMS end, I could see that being a little problematic going forward. So we just need to clean that up for now. But if you are an attorney who's filing something, maybe just make sure you're using the email proof or something else that's, conventional, so that you could get proof that you serve the other party. But we are going to try to resolve that. It's not going to go into infinity. Some of the older cases I would add, if that case that I was filing on just now was an older case. So older meaning pre-C-Track. So we went live with C-Track in 2020. So if I was filing on let's say a 2018 case, some of that service information may not have been updated, only because internally in C-Track and our CMS, some of this information may be either off, or it may be some attorney change and we don't have it updated. So, the public portal takes from CMS. So if it is something like that and the information is inaccurate, simply send email. Most of you reach out directly to the division. So if it's a jury situation, you reach out to one of the supervisors in either district, and they could quickly, it really doesn't take us anything to go in, update it. Some of the older cases, an attorney who's deceased may still appear as a representative for one of the parties. Internally, we have procedures that we have to follow to remove that person, so that it's not like prohibiting you from doing a filing on those cases. But a quick email to e-file help, or specifically to the division, because to the division or that supervisor may get you the help a little faster so that you could do the filing. Let's see. Let me just look through my notes. I think that may cover most of what we had as trouble areas in the beginning. So I am gonna go back here to my home screen. All right, so I believe, like I said, we kind of allowed the email filings between December 30th and now, because of course this presentation had to be rescheduled from last week on the 9th. So I am going to urge you that if you can, please e-file. You have to e-file, it's mandatory. But if you're having issues and it's really just like something that you can't really get done, then please, you could send an email. Most of you have the supervisor's emails, and you could email the Superior Court e-file. That kind of gets you a little quicker help as well. The Superior Court e-file, and then put a language in there that says I'm having issues. When we have like outages within our system, please don't just automatically, like, I know your stuff is time sensitive. I know there are issues where I need to get it filed today. This system just keeps going down. But in most instances, when we are down, we come right back up, and then you could resume e-filing. So to do the flurry of emails just because the system went down for an hour or something, and most times we try to give you notice. The last outage that we didn't get notice either, because there was something that caused it. So it wasn't, intentional. But if it is something where we are going to put the system down, we usually give you advance notice. But just give it a minute. I know how it is working in the firms, and the attorneys are, down your throat on trying to make sure it's timely. But if it is something where it went down, just give it a few minutes before you start sending those emails. The emails are, it's managed a little different from e-filing only because you could imagine us getting 100 emails, trying to get the emails in, trying to timestamp it based on your date of the email and time, and then still some of you go into e-file and file that same filing. So now the docket is duplicated. The docket has 4 filings of motion for summary judgment because you filed it different ways because you weren't sure. So we've been trying to learn too that when there are outages, just kind of relax a little bit, and then you could go on, refresh your screen, and then try to get in the system again. So I am going to go to the chat and see what we have going on. Let's see. Oh no, Attorney Lynch. You asked me to zoom in. I did not do that. I'm so sorry. Maybe when you review, and thanks for joining anyway, because I know you missed the first one you wanted to get on there. But the screen, I'm sorry. I hope you could have still seen it after. All right, so oh, Alicia was trying to help him. Okay. Okay, browsing app. So Google Chrome is the preferred browsing web browser for the public portal, and even internally for our staff, we ask them to use Google Chrome as the default. I've tried to use Edge in doing like one of these testing, and something happens with Edge that for some reason it doesn't work. So that too, Attorney Hodge, thanks for bringing that up. That too is something that we ask you, like outright, what browser are you using? Because we've noticed that a few other browsers give you like errors and try to like bounce you out of the system. We just have a pro safe filer. My IT person, she just forwarded the error message that he's been receiving, because for like maybe 2 weeks we've been trying to help him, and he's, I think, using a different browser. So maybe when I get back some information from the vendor on the authentication error code that he's getting, I'll probably be able to share more information on, why you're getting like an issue, error if you're using something else. So you're saying that Edge fails to send the text. So you're able to get through Firefox, and even then, yeah. So we've gotten a few e-file help. You being one, Attorney Hodge, where you would say you're trying to authenticate and you can't. But yes, I would suggest that the default browser be Google Chrome if you can. What is the in-house process after it is submitted before it is marked approved? So we usually have, the clerks have 24 hours to try to process your submission. I know sometimes when you file something, it may seem like, oh my God, I filed that so long ago. Take into account that on weekends, even though I work, and my chief deputies sometimes go in and help with e-filings, weekends, holidays, those are not like times that the clerks are just actively on the system going through your e-filings. We are in the process of like discussing the kind of like auto approval process that some jurisdictions use. I have brought that up to Justice Hodge a few times and to the presiding judge, but as you can imagine, some of that stuff would probably be problematic if we go through an auto approved process for a filing that you were trying to file on a criminal case, but you filed it in a civil number. So those things, we just kind of have to research that a bit, but it is 24 hours. And you have to take into account the holidays, or if we're closed at 5, the clerks are not here. Although you're allowed to file 24 hours, that doesn't mean it is like, I don't have a docketing clerk. I don't have a, neither does Supreme. So I'll speak on behalf of Attorney Handy, even though their filings are minimal compared to the Superior Court. But the clerks are not on there after 5. Some attorneys, like I've had attorneys call me on a weekend say, hey, I filed an emergency filing in a family custody case. And I pulled that in right away myself or one of the chief deputies. We take our laptops home just for those situations where we know the judge may need to address something over the weekend, but it's the exception and not the norm. If C-Track is down and we have a deadline to submit a filing, what is the next option if we're not able to email? So if C-Track is down, usually within that same day, it's going to come back up. Like it's not going to be like an overnight down. If it's down at 4:50, but you do have a timeline, then yes, you could email the Superior Court e-file email and put your case number in the subject line, but that is again the exception and not the norm. Like, because we have to track those, and I've had instances. I know Shauna is on here. I've had support staff call me and say, Tamara, I filed something 2 months ago through the Superior Court e-file and it was never docketed. So you could imagine the clerks having to kind of manage both and trying to get every single filing in. So it's kind of difficult for us to do that when we had COVID, and in this situation where we were going live and you guys had issues, we allowed it. But yes, if there's a deadline, just put it in your language. I've been trying to file this, your system is down. A lot of the times you may be kicked out on your end, but our system is up or we're live. So it really only requires you to do a quick refresh or just log out and log back in and see if it works before you go into emailing. All right. Jeanette, you had a question on multi-factor authentication. All right. Yes, thank you, Attorney Hodge. Let's see if she asked it after. Okay, every time an attorney logs in, it asks for a code, but instead of the code coming to them, it comes to the support staff. How can we change that? So when you initially registered, or that attorney initially registered, or you helped the attorney initially register, I think a lot of people didn't realize that that would be what stuck, that like that is what's going to stick with you. So if you need that number change, please send an email to e-file help. And again, I'm going to reiterate that every user information and your numbers and address and everything is unique to you. So please don't use your support staff phone number for your authentication, because if you're away from the office and that support staff can't be located, you are not going to get in because you got to get authenticated. So you could request, we've had a few people since November 8th ask for that phone number to be changed. We also have had people ask about using a landline, especially in agencies, like government agencies, where you don't feel comfortable using your phone number, and you can use a landline as long as it's going to go to you directly. So for instance, in my phone here at the court, I have a direct line, so I could put that phone number because I know I could get it. Like I could literally pick up the phone, hear the message of here's your authentication code, but you can't use your main line. Like for instance, Attorney General's office, you can't use 7730295 for the St. Croix office. You can't use that number because that puts you through a prompt. So it puts you to a receptionist, then please press this, please press that. It's going to just end the authentication process. So you must use a number that you have access to. So Jeanette, you could send an email for that specific attorney who needs the number changed. All right, so while the approval time for filings can take a while, it seems to be showing up days later. Yes, we continue to work on that. We continue to work on the acceptance process. As a matter of fact, maybe in the next month or so, we're going to be doing some remedial training because my staff is some of them are new. So we are going to go through some training, but although it shows up later, just know that your submission date is the date that the judge has to go from. Like, because although it says submitted, let me see if I could share my screen again just to show you on this case, for instance. Oh, this doesn't have much of that example, but your submitted date and the file date, I know on the docket, on your public portal docket, you don't see the submitted date with the file date, but for us, we see the submitted date and file date, and that submitted date is what's stamped. So just so you know, it's although it may take a day or two to get on the docket, when it does, your submission date holds. Like that is what the judge is going to go by as the date that you submitted it, and then the judges are trained on looking at the difference. Submitted versus filed in our system means submitted by you but processed by the clerk on a certain day. So we are working on that. Which elements are you checking to approve a filing? So Attorney Hodge, I'm guessing you mean what checklist or scrutiny we do to accept the filing before we say approve. We check for case number, making sure that matches up. We check to be sure that, well, in the beginning of electronic filing, we check to be sure that your electronic signature was there. We made sure that the filing was complete. Like if it's supposed to be 4 pages, but you only uploaded 1. If it's a new case and you didn't add something that is necessary to do the new filing, then those are the things that we look at. I would tell you that from 2020 to present, I've urged the clerks not to reject. Like rejection should be far and in between, only because I know how the rejections kind of is a trickle effect. Like if the clerk rejects something, the money is tied to it. You got to get a refund. So we know the challenges with the rejections. But if there is a rejection that you feel was not like correct, then please just either reach out to the supervisor of that division, or you could send me an email, or the chief deputies, Miss David or Miss Elizabeth David in St. Thomas, and then Roxanne Serrano on St. Croix. But the clerks are like directed not to reject. If it's something simple where it's like, oh, you're missing your e-signature, or you're missing, I would just simply accept it and then call the attorney and say, hey, on your motion, you neglected to do X, Y, and Z. How do I search for a particular filing when I open a case in case view? Tracy, are you internal? Tracy Myers, is that? She answering in the chat. Okay, Tracy, if you could maybe send me something on the side, I'll try to help you, because when you say case view, you're referring to how we refer to the cases internally, and if that is the case, then what I'm trying to find, for example, all complaints in the court, like all complaints in the Superior Court overall. So in public portal, you're trying to kind of filter your filings. Is that what I'm getting from your question? Okay, I'll wait for Tracy to answer on that. Ms. Stevenson, we're gonna try. I usually at the end of this presentation, that's when I kind of give IT the access, because I gotta grant them access, and then we put it on YouTube. So today is Wednesday, maybe by Friday. I know Patty's gonna kill me, that's the IT person, but maybe by Friday we could get it on there so you could see the beginning that you missed. Annette, I have been filing on behalf of my attorneys. However, they have not been receiving notification that the filing have been made. So yes, they need to make sure their notifications are on, because a lot of people say the same thing, but when they go into that profile, their notification preferences have not been checked off. So they got to check both your email and application, but also make sure, Annette, that you are filing on the attorney's behalf, because I've had in my last presentation, one of the support staff actually thought, and she I don't know if she's on here today, but she was hell-bent on, yes, Ms. Charles, I am filing on behalf of the attorney, and it came to fruition, and she was not, she was really filing in her own capacity, so her name was the only thing that was there. And I can't, there's no way for us to kind of attribute the filings that she erroneously filed under her name alone. I can't take those and like a bundle and put them over to that attorney. It's going to be associated in the filing. It's going to show the attorney filed it. It's going to show, you know, this is who filed it. It was submitted by attorney X, Y, and Z. But for your view, like as a support staff, it's not going to show under the attorney's work because you did it under your kind of personal profile, if you want to think of it that way. Joanne, you're getting some notifications and not others. I would suggest as the legal orgs that the legal orgs go back into that section that I reviewed, and I could share my screen again with that. I would suggest that everybody, even if you thought you did it right, I would suggest that you go back in to this user section and just kind of scrutinize everybody, like go through everybody's profile. Like just go here, go edit stuff, go edit, just look through and see if, especially your support staff, make sure that those people have like that forward notifications. So here under the attorney edit staff, you want to make sure that, so this is telling the system for this attorney test, these are the people who's the support staff, and please send notifications to these users. And I only ask that you go back through that only because in the beginning, this was not something that we brought up. We only kind of stumbled upon it to get the distinction between CC email address and forward notifications. We got that a little later after I did the October presentation. So it won't hurt if you're a big firm or a big agency. Maybe it might take your legal org some time to go back through and make sure everybody's stuff is correct, but I would urge that you do that. All right. When hitting the back button, it takes you all the way back to the beginning rather than the last page you were working on. Save from service to beginning. Is that a browser issue? So I'm going to share my screen again just to kind of get an idea of what you're talking about. So if I oh, and I wanted to bring this to this filings, the My Filings tab. If you play with it enough and you see everything like my cases, my filings, some are in a status of approve and some are also in a status of draft. If I wanted to go back into one of these filings to make sure that I could like push it through, I was distracted. I wanted to like finish the step, it's going to take me where I left off, and then I could finish the process. I don't have to start over. I could go into my filings tab and actually do it from here. If it was a filing and you, let's say, ended up, let's see, let me choose one that is in draft. So here, if I was already at the docket entry screen, so I could just do this marriage real quick. So I'll do this just so you could see something. Mm. So I'm already at my filing filing information tab. and I forgot like to put in the address for the person, I would just go back to this tab, because if you go into this section, like it hyperlinks you back to the party screen. So if I'm already on docket entries and I don't want to come all the way out, like you don't choose the back button on your browser, you choose a tab that you want to go back to within that filing, if that is what you meant. Let's see if I answered your question. Back button. Yeah. So if you're in that browser, then yes, don't choose back. Just go into the section that you want to fix. Yes, I totally agree with that, Attorney Hodge. That is something that we're working on, which is trying to get that approval timeline down. My assistant was associated with me on all my cases in the old system, but that association has not carried over. How can that be corrected? So the assistant, whoever your support staff is, needs to be sure that they have registered themselves as support staff XYZ. And then if they're the legal org as well, Attorney Conway, if they're the legal org, if you make them the administrator, then they could manage the organization and make sure that you and that person gets the notifications and everything else that is associated to your firm. If it's something where the support staff is kind of in there correctly, in the system incorrectly, that's part of the challenge. So you could send us the information for who your assistant is, and then I could check the back end to see how she or he shows up as a user. um all right, Tracy. So you're talking about, as a user, you're looking at a case and you want to filter within that case to see all the documents, even in public portal, but you're just looking, I guess, back at like your filings. Um, there is a printable view. I know that it's like you said, if it's like a long docket or a large docket. I'm not sure that you, like, the public portal isn't like filterable. Like you can't go in and like filter your filing. So that's a question I would have to kind of ask the vendor. I know it's not something there right now, but I could ask the vendor to see if it's something that they could look into adding. Let me just make a note of this so that I could ask the vendor. They continue to work on improving the product. So in the last session, we did have a few hearings that I took to them. So we are gonna, take whatever questions you have and pass that on. Internally, in our internal system, we can do that. We could filter and search, but I don't think that's an option in public portal. So I am noting that as a question that I could ask on your behalf. Um, okay, so Attorney Myers, if your manage org does not appear on your home page, then if you are if you're an attorney in if you're, let's say it's a situation where it's only me in my firm, I'm the sole attorney, I should request attorney access, but you should also give yourself administrator rights. So that means this, when you go into, let me share again. So if I'm just no support staff, it's only me, I don't have anybody else, it's just me doing the filings. When I go here, I should be able to see the access that I was granted. But if you want to access the, like, have that manage organization come up as a tab or as a right, you have to also be the organization administrator. So when you initially did your sign up to request attorney access, it should have given you like an option for you to, let me make sure I'm in test product here. So it should have given you an option to also request administrator access. But if you missed it at that time, then you could. Yes, so I created an attorney access, but that's because I'm already like logged in. I'm already a user. But you could request additionally a org administration access if you want to do that. Just gonna reject this. And if you need help, Attorney Myers, with that, then just reach out to me. I'll try to help you with being able to be like the org administrator as well. Um, yes, but yes, and in the meantime, there is an option when you go to public portal, you could do printable view, just so that you could see the view. It is tedious, but that's kind of what we have for now. What documents should you be attaching to become an org administrator? So in the beginning, we sent out like it was just a one page for your attorney or your managing attorney or anybody who would give you the permission to be a legal org admin, and then that attorney signs off, kind of verifying that Aisha is an employee of this firm, and please give her org admin access. So it's a form. I could send it to you, Aisha, if you could just shoot me an email and ask for it, and then I could send it to you. We're gonna try to get the public portal updated, like with the proper links and the things that are on the home page. Some of the things that say additional resources, those aren't really applicable to you as a user. So we're gonna try to get some of those links updated. I want to urge you that we use the announcements portion. I'm going to share again. But we use and this is the live public portal. So as of today, this is what is here. We use this very much to make sure that you are seeing any updates, any expected shutdowns, anything that's coming up. We're going to be using the announcements on the homepage to give you that information. So in addition to that email that we blast to all e-file users, we are also using announcement as a, means for communication. So please pay attention to the announcements on here. But yes, these additional resources link, we're hoping to update that. Maybe give a link to like our website, different things that are applicable to you as a user for the judicial branch public portal. So the form might be one of those things that we put here. But in the meantime, Aisha, you could just send me an email and I'll send it to you. Yes, attorney access. Attorney access allows you to see all cases that you've appeared on. So if you are an attorney representing someone in that case, then yes, you are able to see the system like recognizes you as a valid user. So it must be some case that you've appeared on. And like I've said in the beginning, if you remember, we had our legacy system, which was prior to electronic filing and stuff. We had a system in place internally that the migration from that system was not the cleanest. It just, a lot of things in that older system was a little confusing, and when we converted to C-Track, which was the new system in 2020, a lot of that stuff may have been skewed. So if you are an attorney on the case and you are not being able to see it under your cases, or it doesn't show up, then yes, please send us an email, or send, the division an email saying, hey, I'm supposed to be on this case, but I'm not able to see it, or I'm not able to file on it. Yes, more than one person can have admin access. Um, and second factor authentication for org account. The multi-factor authentication is per user. So that's not like it's not shared, meaning like, oh, if I'm the user and I want to authenticate, I have to use my a number that is gonna be accessible to me. But the admin access, then yes, you anybody could have. It depends on your firm. It depends on what you want to do. Internally, you could have all of your support staff could be legal org admin, but just note that the legal org admin is who has that access to the manage org tab, which allows them to do specific things and take away rights and add people and update roles and stuff like that. So if that's not what you want everybody to be able to do, then just be careful when you're giving that admin access. Um, for your firm, Attorney Hodge, you could email me and I could probably if you don't have if you have a legal org admin already, you could find out from that person who's listed in the system um as whatever roles. But if you don't have an admin person and none of your attorneys are listed as an admin person, then you could just email me and I could look at that for you. All right, so any more questions? Um, if you have a question, let's say something comes up and you're troubleshooting and you something that I said today doesn't work, please just reach out and we'll try to, because a lot of what we're seeing now is user related, so we gotta try to do that on a user basis and not everybody's not having the same problems all the time. If you want to see or access documents in a case in which you did not appear, do you have to search as a public member instead of through attorney access? You should, with your attorney access, you'll see what's there as a public user. So even if you're not on the case, you could go in and search on that case and you'll see everything. The civil cases, I could tell you, the civil cases and cases that rarely have things that are not eligible for public view, those cases are easy. So if it's a civil case or some of the Supreme Court cases in the beginning, you couldn't see like the appeal cases and the some of like the uh bar type cases in Supreme. We've changed that. So if it's like no restriction, you could literally just go in, type the case number if you know the case number. If not, then you kind of have to do the advanced search a little differently and then find the case. But you shouldn't have an issue with accessing a case, even if you're signed in as an attorney. Yeah, no, we've tested that a few times, Attorney Hodge and Attorney Ballantyne. I've been able to go in just as a public user or in my login and search for specific things. So it could very well be maybe when you go to advanced search, don't put in too many things in the fields because that crunches you to like limit you to that specific um parameters. You don't want to do that. So um, if you're still having issues with searching something specific, it shouldn't be happening unless it's a restricted case type. So everybody knows most of the family cases are restricted. You may see the shell of the case, but if it's a case that we've restricted only because the public shouldn't see specific things, then yes, you may not have access to that. And that's mostly family cases. Criminal cases are pretty much open except for specific documents that are in that criminal case. But we've tested it and not had an issue. But if you have an issue, then just send us an email. All right, so that seems to be it. We're done in an hour and a half. So we're gonna try to get the names from the chat. We're gonna try to upload the information onto the YouTube channel as fast as we can. But in the meantime, those of you who I am helping or we're helping with like accessibility issue or something, please note that we do have a system. We have to enter like a trouble ticket to the vendor. They have to help us. A few of us are versed in the system, so we could try to help you ourselves. But if it's something really problematic, then we have to get the vendor involved, and they take a little time to get back to us. But if I am working on something for you, then we'll send you an email. I'm not sure, Attorney Hodge, with the CLE credit. What we're gonna do is our part, which is send the information on to, I believe it's Attorney Cioli. We're gonna send that on, and then they're gonna do what they need to do. I'm not sure how it's gonna be like associated or where it's gonna fall into your CLEs. I'm not sure about that, but we're definitely gonna try to pass the information along as soon as we can. All right, so thank you everyone for joining. If you have anything that comes up after, please let us know. But for the most part, it is our upgrades have been challenging only because we're trying to transform, make sure that our dockets and just your options and those drop downs, we got to clean up some of those things as well. So it's taking us a little time. It actually felt more like a new project than an upgrade. But I thank you guys for, of course, being patient. All righty, so that is it. I will.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll leave it open just in case you are joining late or you join late. Please put your name in the chat if you're an attorney so that we could forward this information on. If you've already done so, please don't do it again. But if you came late and you missed me saying to put your name in the chat as an attorney, then please put it in here. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the week.
Too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You're welcome. You too.
Thank you.
Yes, Attorney Hodge, I see that. But they usually go, like, we would give them, I think in some of the instances, we're just gonna give him probably the recording plus his ability to see the chat. I'm not sure if we could do that, but we're gonna try to compile it. But yes, we note that you have the time there as 110 minutes.